Good morning, Arik. How's everyone doing today?
Good to be back. Can you hear me now, TJ?
Yeah, what's that smile on your face about?
No worries.
Oh,
Just something just happened. Yeah, it's good to be back on. Just pushing out a tweet. So,
what kind of projects have people submitted for us to map the arc reactor? Can you hear me?
yeah. Um, I had a couple of requests. One was spooky swap. Just a bit
Spooky
close to the
swap.
bone, and I had
Casper swap.
Vulcan forged as well.
Okay, are those on Ethereum?
Spooky's on Phantom.
Okay. And then Vulcan swap.
Vulcan Forged is a metaverse game. I'm not sure we'll actually be able to do that, but we can have a look.
Cool. I assume that's on. Oh, sweet. That's on Etherscan. I'm just gonna have to figure out how to screen share on this StreamYard link. Trying to find the spooky swap GitHub.
It's I think Spooky Scan is for Phantom, but I haven't been on there in a bit. Oh no, it's just Phantom Scan. My bad.
Okay, I found it. Oh, sweet. We're not even live yet, are we?
I think we are.
I just got a message from Logan and he said, I think that came in a couple minutes late. Well, all right, guys. So today we're going to be diving into the Arc Reactor. It is our end-to-end solution for smart contract and decentralized application development. It takes development timelines and costs down by over 90%, whilst increasing security because it essentially makes all the code visual. And just to give you guys some context behind that, um, I mean, back when personal computing was just starting to become a thing, everyone was using BASIC and DOS, command line interfaces, etc. And computing only really changed when people could actually interact with the computer visually and graphically. And the way I look at the reactor is we're essentially doing the same thing, but not for personalized computing, for decentralized computing. So without further ado, I am going to present the arc reactor. Let me know when you guys can see my screen. Is it not loading?
There we are. Got
There
it.
we go. All right. So it currently sits on this URL. It is IP whitelisting only, but we're opening this up later for closed beta testing with announcements for that coming out in the future. Not get too off topic. So we have our contracts here. We can upload via the file. We can upload from EVM based explorers or from GitHub itself, and it'll take the on-chain data and class it instantly in the graphical diagram. And then I also have the compiler where I can deploy these contracts directly to mainnet. So it's off chain, off source code files from GitHub. Any smart contract, any decentralized application, I can upload, edit, and then push to mainnet for myself, cross chain. So I'm going to start with a simple example that will be Uniswap, specifically the Uniswap token. We have the contract here on Etherscan. There's about 600 lines of code. I am going to copy the contract address. This is how the process works for everything off chain, by the way, besides GitHub. I hit new project. I'm going to label this Uniswap. Make sure you guys pay attention to see if you can see the loading screen. Creating project. It's already mapped. Did you see that loading screen, Jasper?
Didn't catch it.
Well, so here's the Uniswap token. This is the contract. You have the libraries, the structure down here. And this is known as an entity relationship diagram. So as you can see, it has all the functions, has the data structures, how the code is organized, and I can actually click the individual functions and it's mapped. I can see the subnodes it's connected to. I can see the name, the parameters. I can look at the type. I understand exactly what this function does. And I can also open these functions up in activity diagrams. And this is the real cool part, guys, because this is source code. This code that you see right here, these diagrams, is what was made when I took this complicated source code and I mapped it. And now it's visual. And I can edit the source code using the diagram itself. So this is a constructor function. Basically, once Uniswap deployed their token, the constructor set up various features within the token. It's only called once and it's only called when the token was deployed. I can see exactly how the source code works for this function. And if I want to edit the source code, instead of typing line by line, I simply can use libraries installed into the Arc Reactor. So I'm just going to change some of the source code live. We have an index access. I'm going to change it to Boolean. I'll make that true. I'm going to change the function call. It's going to be a string. Let's say 420 for the value. Operator. Exclamation point. And then I hit the check mark and boom. It changed the function and it changed the underlying source code. So now if I want to deploy this, I can switch to any of these other chains plus more through the compiler and deploy directly in mainnet. And I have my Uniswap token with changed source code. I can understand exactly how that source code works and I can have it on mainnet like that.
So I feel like it might be
So
easier if I should I just put some questions to you, TJ, kind of on different aspects of this, and then we can dive into a little bit more
yeah,
detail because so obviously there's different components of Reactor which make different parts of the kind of coding workflow faster. So maybe should we start with the diagramming element? How do you feel the diagramming element, which is obviously a big part of what Reactor does, is going to serve to allow developers to code with more efficiency?
I mean, I think it's a major leap forwards in the space because you have these really nascent code bases, and this is a simple one. I'm going to show you guys something, and that it'll speak to that perfectly. So I'm going to look up the 1-inch router contract. I'm going to take the aggregation router to verify the contract. This is it. 5,000 lines of code. Let me copy this. I'm going to throw that away. New project. The right contract address. It's already mapped. Load it in. And basically, to get to your question, the what diagramming does is it takes all the functions, how they interlay within each other, and exactly how the code works, and it displays it graphically so you can understand it. Like when I came into this space, I wasn't a developer, and understanding how this code actually worked, it was impossible for me to understand. And being able to see things graphically and just know how all the functions work and see all the data displayed right in a diagram, which for whatever reason I might not have. Right in a diagram allows me to essentially just know how everything works, and then I can actually edit from the diagram too. I don't have to, I don't have to work in a code editor and type this code line by line, which is how this is made, line by line.
Yeah, I think a lot of the value as well comes through that collaborative element, right? So when further down the line, when we have a more polished UI on there as well, and there's 100 people in an enterprise using this platform, anybody can go on there live and kind of see the progress. It's much easier to understand the coding, the process, and how the contracts fit together. And I'll just throw in one question, which I know gets brought up a lot, so that we can just set this straight. But TJ, how is this any different from me just copy and pasting that contract?
It maps the contract exactly so you can understand it. I mean, so right now, like if I wanted to understand, for example, one of the projects that you mentioned was Spooky Swap, right? Like the guys in the community wanted to see Spooky Swap mapped. I'm gonna go to GitHub upload for Spooky Swap. This is all of these contracts right in GitHub, instantly mapped in the reactor. So it's copied to the reactor, but it's not just copied, okay? Because we have the contracts. It's not showing it line by line in a difficult to understand
Yeah,
syntax.
and I feel like maybe some of the value is easier to convey from people like us who aren't actually like Henry, kind of absolute geniuses when it comes to code, because
Yeah.
because what you can do with this, and like it's important to understand that, I mean, there's things like auditing, which the diagramming element immediately makes so much more efficient. But when it comes to the
Mhm.
whole start to finish process, and you have, if you think about the fact that any major layer one after Ethereum is basically 90% of Ethereum's code base in full, what you can do by grabbing these code bases and then editing it, being able to deploy it cross chain, and we'll come on to the compiler in more detail in a second. But all of these elements are taking on the biggest competitors in the game, like Remix IDE, the virtual machine, and just making
Yeah.
every part of the process more efficient.
Yeah, and it's
So yeah, I
it's
mean,
about, I mean, you have 20 developers in an organization. They're all going to understand it differently and until now. I mean, because everyone can collaborate in the same space. They can work on the contracts in the same diagram. They can edit the contracts from the diagram. Like this is incredible, guys. I mean, we have the libraries right here. Instead of typing line by line that I'm going to change this and probably have to write 5, 6 lines of code, I can easily just click through here and it populates array, mapping, user defined type name, index access, and I can just keep adding as I go along. Check mark, and it generated new source code. Plus, one of the other features that you might notice this as well in the bottom right, Jasper, as I was going along these contracts, I actually found 18 problems. because it's graphically mapped. So I can look and see exactly where these dependencies point to, which is nowhere.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And
I wouldn't want to expose the project by name, but I know that we were on a demo, and I mean, I'll let you tell
yeah,
the story, but
yeah, we were on a demo with them, and they couldn't find a problem they were having with their code for a while. And we were like, hey, maybe, I could demo the reactor to you guys. You could use it. And it had been months, and they kept having this problem. They just couldn't figure it out. Well, in the demo call, I mapped our contracts for them. Uh, and I can instantly see exactly where the code was broken. I went in the problem console. I pointed it out to them. It highlighted in the problem console, and they immediately saw how they could fix it, and they're like, "Oh wow!" And they're going to be part of our beta testing most likely. So potentially a big
yeah,
subscriber in the future.
absolutely. I mean, it's funny because obviously we've been on here doing these demos, I mean, 50 times at this point on so many calls. So it's nice to be on the stream and getting to show everybody in the community this too. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, obviously the video is public, but how do you feel the Lady of Crypto reacted? Because obviously she got a live demo.
hmm I mean, I was excited by how she reacted to it, how she reacted to the reactor. Um, and I think if someone that doesn't have a plethora of coding knowledge and experience can understand the impact the reactor is going to have like that, it speaks volumes of the product. And I was glad that she liked it. Um, even someone else liked it on that call. So they just wouldn't say
Yeah,
so.
they did. No, they did. They did. I mean, I think the GMX were impressed. I think that they. I mean, we've already. Well, actually, I won't disclose private conversations, but no, I think they were. I think they were impressed with the technology.
Yeah. Look at that. Change the whole flow of this restricted function. Um, but yeah, I mean, what are some of the other questions that the community has had? I know they mentioned other projects. Do they want to see those
Should we?
projects mapped?
Yeah. Should we dive into the compiler quickly before we dive out to kind of widen the floor and maybe talk about things outside the reactor? Because I feel like the compiler and
hmm
what Henry's done with that is a really important part of how we're going to be taking market share off a lot of the kind of existing tools.
Yeah, so currently the compiler is sitting outside direct integration with the reactor in its current state, the latest update. But I will be able to show you how that works now. So right now we're using Remix. And once I'm done editing these contracts, I just import them over here, and then I can deploy. And I have to do it manually. So I have to select the chain. I have to populate all of the addresses manually here in the bottom. And if anyone's been watching the videos, like that's the process that takes the longest. Um, I mean, when we were doing pancake swap to Polygon, it took 40 minutes to do that. GMX, it took most of the time using the compiler. And our compiler in the future is going to auto compile in the background. So it's going to take the whole deployment and compilation process down by a significant margin.
There's a message in the comments. Can we try 1 inch again? I mean, it is an impressive one.
Yeah, we can try 1 inch again. I had no clue it wasn't populating earlier for some reason, even though I've done it a
Yeah,
thousand times in these.
I was gonna say I've seen you do it 1,000 times.
So we have 1 inch, all kinds of code. Let's see if it maps the unicorn. It'd be cool. Um, take the contract address. Dumped that. Hope that wasn't important. By the way, I can save it. I can also deploy to GitHub from the reactor. Import from EVM Base Explorer. Here's one, and you can see it's populated already here on the right side. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, the code was developed with traditional methods, line by line. So when we organize the structure and the flow of it, it populates into something like this. Just all kinds of contracts calling to each other in a somewhat random sequence. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the most, or one of the biggest use cases of the reactor, is being able to understand how all this code interoperates. Like, it
Yeah, and I
populates
think
here on the right side. I can add the base contracts. I can add subnodes. I can add to the
say
children.
say that you and I, TJ, as well, were just a small part of, say, the 1 inch development team, and we wanted to come on here and say, work on the aggregator route of V4. There could be 10 other developers working on projects across the diagram, and at the same time we could just go in there, dive in there, audit it, edit any
Exactly.
code, ingest any other functionality from any other open source code. We'll have AI in the near future that will be recommending any updates to that code
Exactly.
and pointing out. So yeah, it's going to be a very powerful tool in that sense too.
Yeah, I mean, for all of you guys that have worked in Figma or Google Docs, I hope all of you guys have worked in Google Docs at least once. You can suggest in there. You can leave comments, and you can collaborate live with your colleagues right in the Google Doc. And the idea is to do that, but for coding and graphically. So it's like a Figma for coding. But yeah, I mean, as Jasper mentioned, auditing, we serve a significant use case for auditors, because traditionally what they do is they go through this line by line. They oh, the constructor function, okay, it connects to message sender. Where else is message sender mentioned? And they have to do it manually, line by line, and it doesn't get that deep. The level of abstraction, it might cover how this function works, but it doesn't talk about how 6 or 7 functions could work together to create a possible exploit. And what the reactor does is it shows exactly how they connect. I can see exactly all the different contracts and functions it references. And then for developers as well, I can change it easily, generating new source code with buttons instead of typing line by line. If I want to make a new project, I just go shopping on the blockchain, and I add different projects together. Sorry, my MetaMask refreshed. Can you see my MetaMask? I want you guys to see my password. Jasper, can you see it?
No,
All
can't.
right. But yeah, I mean, does anyone have any more questions, or do you want to dive into anything else?
We could also dive into the virtual machine element if you think, or is that too much for one day?
I think we can talk about the virtual machine a little bit in the future. I know I've been writing on that over the weekend, and quite extensively, and especially preparing that piece for the white paper.
Mm.
Let's keep that one a little bit close to the chest right now so we can release it in the future and dilute the
Okie
alpha
doke.
a little bit. The compiler is already a big deal, and when we drop that, I mean, it's going to take timelines. Like, these videos that you see that are an hour long, they're going to be 20 minutes max, because we're taking that timeline way down with the compiler.
Okie dokes. Well, look, I'll dive into the AMA questions on Discord, and we can start there. Let me
Great.
just start working down. So just reading this very first one, I'm just going to preface this by saying that we should be very careful not to kind of let too much go. But question one: Arc is partnering with OKX and Kickchain already. I know those announcements are quite fresh still, but are there any projects or products they developed using Reactor already? Do you know anything about their work with the Reactor, and did they give any feedback or suggestions for further improvement?
So we've been collaborating, and we may have announcements in the future on projects that we're potentially working on.
Mm.
Um,
Probably good to not go too much further.
yeah, but I know that they're interested in testing out, and once we get that beta test round running and completed, anyone that participates in that will be able to move directly into subscribing.
Yeah, yeah. And there'll be more information coming very shortly on the beta testing process. Um, cool. Next one is a question around farms, asking about the jungle farm single side stake. Basically asking what does this mean regarding single side stake? When should we expect that to happen? And is there an approximated end date for single side staking farms?
Um, I mean, as far as the single side staking, there's going to be an announcement over that soon. Um, I don't plan for that to stop anytime soon. I mean, that's kind of an integral part of our ecosystem. Um, and I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the results of the recent poll that came out. So we're going to be keeping that.
Yeah. We'll be sticking to our word on that. No. Is there an updated estimated timeline for a reward back system? Not using the term revenue share, but I'm assuming that's well after Reactor release and partners in place.
Um, Sorry, can you repeat the first part of that question again, Jasper?
Essentially asking, is there any updates around the reward back system, not saying revenue share?
Um, I
No.
mean, yeah, nothing public. I mean, we've been working steadily away at that, and I have some exciting progress uh, with Henry lately on that front, but nothing that we can announce as of right now.
Okay, next question. When deploying something to a different chain, does the Reactor automatically make any adjustments required to make it fully compatible?
Yes. So it takes anything from any chain, any EVM chain or GitHub, and it makes it compatible for that other chain. And I also I saw Urbane Jungler's comment in on YouTube, like mapping 1-inch code base is a real eye opener. Thank you for that. And like we can map their code base, and then I can deploy it to any EVM chain. But not only map it, I can change the source code instantly using those functions, and then deploy it as well. It takes any smart contract from any EVM chain and makes it compatible for any other.
Okay, next question. Does Reactor have support for RSK network? And also wondering if Reactor would be able to help with something like implementing rollups. And this would be a massive step for Bitcoin DeFi capabilities.
RSK network EVM compatible?
That's probably a question for Henry. I actually have never heard of them.
Me neither. But yeah, I mean, as far as ZK rollups, we do have the ability to map those and actually build that out. And as this space continues to evolve, I'm going to open my screen share again. By the way, can you give me, I'm going to give them an example. Can you give me a project that I can map, Jasper, that I can find online and map for these guys? Again, another one live.
I mean, would it be too close to the bone to say GMX?
I would do GMX, but that is like 1,000 different contracts.
No,
So
no, I joke. Okay. God, you're really putting me on the spot there, mate.
like OpenSea,
What? Yeah, yeah. Open. Yeah, let's go down the NFT route
everyone
because it looks
knows.
rareable.
Yeah, everyone knows OpenSea. Okay, so um, OpenSea exchange contracts. They're Wyvern exchange, Wyvern, Wyvern. Right here on Etherscan, we have the source code, about 2,000 lines. So, I mean, as you guys know, line by line, it's difficult to understand what this does, how each function connects to one another. It's difficult to audit. It's difficult to edit. So I'm just going to simply copy the address, open a new project, OpenSea, paste, create the project initialized, it's already populating, and boom. Like this is the OpenSea Wyvern Exchange v2. And that person that asked questions over rollups, like the reason why I dived into this whole OpenSea example was to show you that all of these complicated new things that people are working on in the space, how smart contracts are going to act within each other in the future, and how repositories will work that sit on the blockchain. Any of these new complicated processes are going to be made easier by the reactor. I don't have to manually input things line by line, trying to understand an entire code base line by line anymore. In the future, anyone can use the reactor. They can understand exactly how all these functions connect to each other. They can code directly from the reactor. They can leave suggestions for their teammates directly from the reactor. Um, changing this entire code base is possible just from the libraries we have. And literally, as I'm changing it, it's remapping live. Do you see how this entire diagram just changed? This is source code. And by the way the tree is balanced, I can see error, 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 error. So every time I'm updating, it instantly lets me know that there's an error. If I want to change it and revert back, I can. If I want to ship this for whatever reason, then anyone else can open this and they're able to see that there's errors. And what it's going to do is it's going to force the space to be more transparent because anyone could look at the code graphically, but it's also going to speed up the development of Web3 because everyone can develop with a system that instantly generates source code from the diagram, as well as allow anyone to instantly understand an entire code base, even if it's something as complicated as the freaking OpenSea Wyvern Exchange. So
Potentially not complicated enough. I think most NFT degens would agree. Shy.
yeah.
One comment that's just been dropped in the YouTube comments is any news about getting ARC to major exchanges. So I'd just say about that, it's something that's always kind of in the back of our minds, but as I'm sure all of you guys in the community will agree, we are very reluctant to give away the kind of the swathes of tokens and capital that they ask for just for a listing. We personally think that those funds are much better allocated in other areas. I think it's something that we will look towards again in the future, but it's really not the top of our agenda right now.
Yeah, I mean, as Jasper mentioned, we listed on Gate like the day Russia attacked Ukraine, and it it wasn't that good in the long run. Let's just say that. And for exchange listings in the future, we want it to be like a mutual type relationship where they come to us and it's a tier one, like Binance.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we're not going to go doing what a lot of projects do, where you go up to KuCoin and say that you're going to drop, $1.5 million to get listed and give them half your tokens and liquidity. I mean, it's just, where would be the sense in that, honestly?
Yeah, for it to be dumped. No thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I was hearing. Well, actually, I won't go into it, but a project that listed on a exchange recently had basically all of their tokens dumped on them in the first few days. Yeah, it's pretty depressing to hear for a small project starting up. That kind of thing can be done. But anyway, we can let's plow on.
Yeah. I actually opened some of these questions.
Okay.
They're
I was
making
gonna
jokes
do
about
them.
my door being barricaded.
I was gonna dive into Yoda-san's question next. That was where we had got to.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go into that one.
Yeah. So we have technology called a fuzzifier, and it essentially makes the code very difficult to replicate. Um, and we are also far ahead in regards to being able to generate code from diagrams, in regards to being able to map on-chain data. No one has worked on it because or at least to the extent we have, because when Henry published the original paper on heterogeneous blockchains, um, the idea was kind of rejected. Not a lot of people understood it and how it could be implemented until now. So all the years he's been theorizing about this and the many months we've put into developing the reactor have all been without people trying to make the same thing, essentially. And then as far as how the code's protected, as I mentioned, we have it hidden by a obfuscation layer as well as multiple other security processes.
Yeah, I think it's worth adding as well that this is something that we've thought about at great depth. I mean, like even 6 months ago, we were having consultations around how we would look to patent the technology, how the safest way to protect that was. And there are certain layer ones that we spoke to, like Polkadot, for example, which basically would say that we have to go open source with the code, and that's just not something that we would be looking to do at this time. So yeah, it's something that we've thought about really at great length.
Yeah. The LOC, or can you give further information? I see he snuck two questions in there. Can you give further information on the private round, new tokenomics, and the destiny of the team tokens that are being unlocked? Do you want to dive into that, Jasper, or should I tackle it?
Well, I know that AJ had asked us not to really address this on calls like this in the future. So, I mean, it's probably easiest to just start it by saying that this is obviously quite sensitive information that we
Yeah.
cannot divulge right now for a number of reasons. But I mean, I don't know if you want to touch on the tokenomics element potentially. I know you've touched before on how revenue share, which is not what we are doing, but obviously it's the same concept, but in with a different veil. Yeah, I mean, do you want to maybe go over some of the Stark mechanics again and how that will be operating in the future?
Yeah, I mean, in the future, people are going to be able to access um, liquidity that the project creates through fees and different revenue collecting mechanisms through a wrapped token. That token will be supplied when a user enters into a contract via the amount of ARC they hold in their wallet. When they access that contract, they're required to stake that token for a certain number of days. If they move their ARC out of their wallet at any time, not out of the staking contract because the ARC isn't staked, the contract is null and void. But if the ARC is held, as well as the Stark being held in the staking contract for that contract's length of time, they're able to sell the ARC or sell the Stark, and it will pull liquidity out of the specialized liquidity pool And that's how people will access liquidity that's created through the ARC ecosystem in the future. So it sounds convoluted, but it's essentially a decentralized way for people to access something that would normally be classed as a security and create undue risk for everyone involved, um, through a entirely different token that doesn't put a lot of risk on the ARC token itself.
Cool, perfect. And yeah, there'll be much more detailed documentation that we've been working on that will be out on that in the near future as well.
Yeah, we don't want to dilute that. I know we've been putting in a lot of hard work on that entire process, the structure, the flow of the documents, how everything will be released, and we're starting to become more organized in how we release these things. So,
Awesome. Okay, the Lady of Crypto video mentioned the beta test started at the starting at the start of December for 45 days. Sounds like that hasn't started yet. No, it hasn't. I mean, I don't know if we want to sort of divulge specifics on this, but yeah, I mean, this will be happening in the very near future. We're just doing some kind of finishing touches on that process.
yeah, we're going to be announcing more details soon on that entire campaign of getting users in the closed beta and how you can participate. But we are still putting together the finishing touches. Just stay tuned on Twitter and our other channels to be updated.
Crypto Walk also asks, when are we looking at the actual public reactor release and therefore paid subscriptions to it? Sounds like that will not be before Feb at the earliest, in brackets, after the beta finishes.
So people are going to be using the product in beta, but if they are building actual projects with the product and not just passion projects, we plan on potentially charging them. So subscriptions could come before February or whenever the project is done testing, but we don't want to go out to market with a product that hasn't had testing yet, that needs a UI refresh. Well, it doesn't need one, but we've been preparing UI updates. I'm sure you guys saw in that video. Um, and we don't want to go to market with that business model until everything is tested thoroughly and we're sure that we're offering a really heavy value proposition in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to answer that in very short, no, definitely not before February. And I think that would be a fairly ambitious timeline as well, right now.
Yeah, well,
But
and
obviously it's dependent on a kind of number of other factors too, right?
yeah, and I mean this whole pipeline we're creating with closed beta, there's no reason why we couldn't implement something that would allow the closed beta users to just roll over onto membership, the ones that still want to participate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
So,
think a big part of what I've been working on as well, particularly in the last couple of months, has been in forming these quite close relationships with layer ones and ecosystems themselves. We're now in a number of very high profile builders communities, and then from there the idea is to kind of tackle each project, project by project, literally, you know. In some of these there'll be 300 projects. We just speak to all of them, kind of ascertain their interest, and then as we move towards Reactor public release, kind of onboard a pipeline that will be ready to jump in kind of when the time comes. And I don't want to disclose anything too much on that, but we do have, I think we can maybe drop a slight teaser, for those watching now. We do have another AMA coming out with one of the big layer ones, which will be
shut up.
soon.
Shut up, Jasper. What are you doing?
Anyway, enough said on that. Enough said on that. Anyway, so
At
yeah,
least, yeah, at
that's
least you
kind of
didn't say the name.
yeah, of course. No, but I just trying to kind of share a bit of our thought process, because obviously there's a lot of different aspects of what we're doing at the moment, which is not obviously the visibility for you guys isn't sort of that easy. So yeah, it's a lot of just trying to get these relationships in place and trying to position ARC in the best possible manner, in the lead up to kind of Reactor going public and testing.
I think we made
So yes.
Yoda-san mad. He thought you were gonna slip up there.
No. Yeah, Yoda-san, you'll definitely be pleased with this one, mate. Cool. Just having a look if there are any more questions. CryptoBox, as you mentioned, exchanges, you have an existing relationship with OKX. Yes. Seems like that would make it pretty easy and cheap to get a listing there, given there is already a relationship. Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's important to say that our relationship is with the OKX chain rather than OKX the exchange, which are two relatively separate entities. So that's quite an important distinction, and one that would probably, yeah, put up a bit of a barrier to making that kind of second conversation a lot easier to move into. But I mean, look, it's
Well,
absolutely something that's in the back of our mind.
yeah, and we
I
don't
mean,
want to put pressure on the relationship either. I mean, we are partnered with them for like a very specific reason. And we're going to be working on very specific things. We don't want to put undue pressure on them by trying to slip in an exchange listing. Oh, any deal we work out, we want it to work for both sides.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're thinking about it strategically and working towards a shared goal. So it's not, yeah. I mean, we've had conversations with, as I've said before, pretty much all of them. And it's not a case of rocking up and being like, "Hey guys, we want a listing." Like, there's a lot of other things that need to be spoken about first, and other things that we would want to achieve before even having that conversation. So, yeah.
Yeah. Man,
Sam's asking. Sorry, what are you saying, mate?
sorry, I was hoping that people would have some projects for me to upload. I only did
Yeah, if
two.
anyone wants to, drop any in the comments,
Or like
please
more
do.
questions over the instant source code generation. Like that's incredible, guys. I mean, I know that we don't have a ton of developers in the community, but being able to generate hundreds of lines of code just by clicking some buttons in the library, putting the values in, and then I'm able to see that source code and instantly how it works. It's a big deal.
Yeah, of course, and we have more plans for AI integration in the future. But obviously, with everything going on with Chat GPT at the moment, it's a very hot topic as well. So we're there, we're riding that wave 100%. Um, yeah, Sam asks, can Arc see what the devs are building from the companies using this, or is it strictly for their eyes only? I mean, I think worth saying that in the testing process, TJ,
We
Henry, to a lesser extent, myself will be
see
working very
everything.
closely with them. Yeah, 100%. We'll be with them for every step of the way. But I think when things go public, and we're not going to be spying on every project's workflow. Obviously, we'll be respecting their privacy if that's something that they want.
Oh no, we can't do that one, guys. Shut up. Come on. Come on.
Definitely not.
Here I can do.
Do a
I don't know
cappy.
what GNS is. That Gains Network. We'll do Gains Network.
Yeah, against networking.
By the way, sorry my voice and my words are a little bit off today, guys. I'm feeling sick. Gains Network. Okay, so is it this one? Yoda? Yoda-san?
Yeah.
I
It is.
assume so. Okay, so they have a bunch of different contracts. Like, which ones? I mean, I guess I can pick just the tokens for now. Go to their contracts and their GitHub. Man, I'm teaching you guys how to develop just from this call. And I'm gonna have to log into my MetaMask again. Give me a sec. Always put your MetaMask on a 10-minute refresh. It helps with phishing. Okay, so we have GNS tokens. What I did is I navigated through their entire repository until I came to their token contracts. I'm gonna import from GitHub. Copy the address, paste it in. It's loading the source code. And, ooh, that's a lot of contracts. I think it just pulled all of their contracts, actually. And here is the entire project and all their contracts and how they work and the code functions. So this child chain manager contract on state receive function. So this is how the code flows. It's simple yes or no. I can edit the source code. Let's see if I can make the whole shape of it change, actually. $26. Let's make that a Zabo. And TJ, question mark? And now that's in the source code, TJ question mark.
Yes,
And it
is the answer.
changed how it flowed. So now I can deploy this anywhere. I could deploy just this contract or the whole repository. And then I have Gains network on a different chain with different source code. What are you saying, Jasper?
No, it's just there's somebody's written in the comments. Thank God George Fox isn't on for once. I think we can all agree with that. he'll be listening. There'll be a DM coming through in 10
Oh,
seconds.
yeah. That's funny.
Sorry, cheap gag. Yeah, no, it's always amazing hearing Henry dive into some of this stuff too, isn't it? Because
Oh, yeah.
he blows your mind.
Yeah. Whoa, what's going on here?
They're called child token.
It's like they meant for it to point to maybe child token. But it's funny, like you wouldn't pick this up line by line. It's because it's literally line by line. It's really difficult to understand, but you know, it does it graphically now. What's another project people mention? Can't do that one.
Chromatica.
Chromatica. Did they have a GitHub?
Possibly.
That's in JavaScript. Looks like they've hidden their contracts.
I mean, they're tokens on Etherscan, but it's not as interesting.
Right, let's see if I can find their contracts hidden somewhere. Chromatica.
Oh, it's on Optimism.
Done Optimism. We can do that if it's in Solidity. We just need to find the Solidity contracts. They not. I guess they didn't put their contracts up. Didn't we map their contracts before? What project on
I don't
Twitter
remember doing them actually. What about Snipe?
map their contracts and they take them down? Was that Snipe you said?
No, Snipe Rub. No.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was not a good one.
Okay, let's see if it just pulls through their entire link and it might find a Solidity contract somewhere, but I didn't see Solidity. No, they don't have Solidity hidden in here. They're on Ethereum, right?
I actually really don't know much about Crom. I know that Shark was a big fan of them for a while, but I actually never particularly dived into what they were doing. I think I've heard good things about them though.
Well, they have 10 files on Ethereum, so let's just do that real quick. All right. There you go. I always love the speed of that. Here's their contracts. We even have their drafts. Interesting. VIP 712. Ooh, let's not close that window.
Oh, they're a decentralized exchange with limit orders and perpetuities.
I mean, I'm sure if I dove into it, I could see where they interact. I don't know why they don't have their contracts on their GitHub though.
Yeah.
Strange one. RVF? Did someone say RVF?
Yeah.
Not RBF? Oh my gosh. Do they not have one? I haven't heard about them in a while, actually.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't think this is it. Rocket Vault? Was that the name of the...
Uh, Rocket X. On a Rocket Volt.
Rocket
Rocket
X?
Volt Rocket X. Yeah,
Oh, they're interchangeable?
I think so.
Oh no, Rocket Pool.
No, not Rocket Pool, but I mean that's a cool one to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I can't find it for now. I'm sure we could
What's
find it on
what's the,
screen.
what's the metaverse one we were talking about the other day? I've completely forgotten, but was it Axie?
Oh yeah, Axie Infinity.
Yeah. Let's do Axie to round things off because
Freaking
I think that
massive.
was yeah, that's a really cool one.
Okay.
Really interesting project this actually.
I'm not sure this is the official Axie Infinity. I think they have more than 2 developers. Oh, public smart contracts of Axie. There we go. It has a marketplace, core, pre-sale. Wait, I'm doing it from GitHub. Axie Infinity.
Just like
It's
that.
weird. They have a bunch of like C-suite functions: CEO, CFO, COO,
It's like an administrative
CEO address.
apparatus.
Yes, no. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Watch people just be creeping on these videos and they see where the dependencies are broken. Axie Manager, customizable. Spawning Manager, retirement, marketplace, jeans. Man, see how it populates on the right side. Interesting. Axie Infinity, guys. Oh no. No, and I bet some of these is on these GitHubs. they take down like that one smart contract that's going to make the whole thing work. I know in some of the
Sure.
videos we did, they would take a specific smart contract out so people it make it harder to fork. And if you watch some of the videos carefully, Henry goes and finds those and pops it right in into spots like this.
The man's a whiz.
Oh
Certain
yeah.
going to be knocking on our door. Cool. Well, I'll have a quick look through for some more questions, but we're coming up on the hour, TJ. So I think that's enough alpha for one session.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys were tempting me to upload some other projects as well, so I think we got to get off now.
Yeah, I'll just give everybody 30 seconds if there's anything closing they just want to drop in the AMA questions. But otherwise, yeah, exciting times going into the festive period. There's so much going on. We're all
Oh
very
yeah.
very hands on right now. So yeah, I'm excited to get the testing out as well.
Excited as well. It's going to be exciting seeing users testing out the reactor, their thoughts on it, and then of course eventually launching as well. So thanks for hopping on today, guys. Thanks for all the
Oh,
questions
I've got
and projects.
one quite fun one. Just before
Okay.
we wrap up from Decent, as we begin to wrap up 2022, what has been your favorite arc moment this year, and what are you looking forward to next year?
When we started to focus on reactor.
I think for me, it's got to be when Henry sent that meme. I know we
The
all
Henry
remember that.
meme.
Yeah, the Henry meme. I mean, just to provide a little bit of context to this, this was God, mate, like a good 6 or 7 months ago now. And at the time, I personally didn't know Henry too well, and I know TJ obviously must knew him a bit better at that time. But I remember George and I saying, we didn't realize that Henry had this slight kind of underbelly of dark humor. And there was one of the developers at the time sent a photo of them going like like this. And anyway, I'm not going to go into the exact
Yeah,
specifics of the
yeah,
meme,
yeah,
but anyway,
You don't
this
expect
meme
that from
popped up.
Henry.
We never saw it coming. He's actually got he's one of the
Like
funniest
he
people.
reads everything, guys. You wouldn't believe it. He's coding all the time, but he reads everything, and he only replies at specific times. It's like sighting a unicorn. Very rare, but when it happens, it's awesome.
It's brilliant. It's too good. Yeah, he's a very very funny man. What are we looking forward to for next year? I mean, that's God, where to start.
I'm looking forward to dropping the reactor for everyone to use.
Yeah, 100% for the fruits of our labor to come to fruition. So much stuff. Um, but yeah, we'll let that speak for itself as and when. Yeah, I'll let TJ round everything off in a sec. But guys, always a pleasure to come on. Always lovely to be on here with TJ, and we'll try our best to keep George off the next one. But if he does happen to be on, then apologies in advance.
Thanks, Jasper. Well, yeah, thanks for attending today, guys. And I'm glad you got to see what the reactor is all about. As you can see, it's an end-to-end solution. You can take data off chain or off of any GitHub repository. You can map it instantly. Then you can edit the source code. You can audit the source code and ship it to any EVM chain, and all from one place. And that's it. Thanks for attending today, guys. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to post them in the channel for the next GMA. And stay tuned for when we drop this on YouTube. Or, sorry, when we clip it. But thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.